Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're end of another day here at the federal courthouse in Las Vegas. I'm here with Gina Harden from California. So she's been reporting quite a while, and she's also came out to Camp Liberty when we were there in this summer. And so you'll have to look up her page also.
Liberty Grows.
Liberty Grows. So what was your take on the day?
We just witnessed a miracle in Judge Navarro's courtroom. The miracle that we've been praying for. The jury got to hear the truth. The jury got to hear the whole story, thanks to Clive and Bundy's attorney, Mr. Whipple. And it was great to watch. And, you know, when the prosecution comes out and does their opening statement, the lawyers told me it's not an opening argument, you have to call it a statement.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it always looks bad when you see these pictures of guns, but all they showed were screenshots. And, you know, and they start with their timeline back in 1998 and these court orders. But Mr. Whipple came and put it all in context, showed the whole video, and made the government look like a bunch of liars when you see it in context. And he took it back to, 1850s?
Yes.
And told the story of the Old West and talked about, well, go ahead and go
Oh,
ahead,
yeah.
John.
He went right through the whole thing. He said, this is about natural resources. Something we've been talking about all along, you know. Why does the government want the Bundys off? It's not about money. That was brought up multiple times. He said, this isn't about money. This is about the natural resources that this land holds. The water rights, which Clive and Bundy owns. And they've owned this, like she said, since 1860s, 1877 to be exact. June 7th of 1877 is when the Bundy Ranch was founded. And this is a fact. This isn't hearsay. This is a fact, and it was brought out again in court today. And it came down to scientists, the water rights, the mineral rights, all this kind of stuff is what this case is all about. The Desert Taurus from 1989 is when Clive and Bundy started being attacked. And so that's what it's all about.
Well, they talked about how the BLM was really just trying to put them out of business because they said, you know, this poor tortoise is endangered. You can't have this many cattle out there. I think it went from like 150 down to 92. And he said, well, wait a minute. He said, I protest that because if I don't have my cattle out there, then I lose my water rights because you use it or lose it. That's the law. And his attorney was telling him, you can't let them do this. And so they actually got the state legislators to get involved. It's the first time the government tried to impound the cattle, and the state legislatures went to the federal government and said, you can't do this. This isn't right. And they ceased their operation then.
Exactly. One saying I kind of liked, and I wrote it down in my notes, that was said is, alcohol is for drinking, water is for fighting. And that's what it's been about, is the water rights here. The one thing that was brought up is, why were there dump trucks? The contractors supposedly were cowboys, brought in horse trailers and tools to gather cows up. But there was dump trucks and backhoes and other things. What was in the back of some of these dump trucks? One of them was water pipes that they had tore up, and they didn't have any warrants or any permission and any court order to tear down.
Right. This was all Clive and Bundy's labor.
Yes.
This was the labor for generations of protecting this water from the Virgin River and the springs and bringing water to the desert so that the tortoises and the cattle and everything else can survive. And they were destroying his property and stealing his property, and there was no court order that allowed them to do this. And so this was this event, I think, on April 9th,
yes,
when Davy Bundy was out there. And they told the whole story. Ryan's coming home with his family from church, and he sees Davy out there in trouble with a bunch of officers. And the government had said, oh, you know, these Bundy boys were threatening and intimidating these officers. And so Whipple said, well, let's watch the video and you be the judge. And then you see in this, you know, it's just like one of these police. It was from a police dash cam or something, and we're so used to seeing that all the time now. And he shows the video, and it was tense, but the tension was coming from, I mean, the Bundys were surrounded by these officers, and then you see, it's kind of off to the side, you see Dave get tossed to the ground, and then they show the follow-up picture of the injuries to Dave Bundy's face. And
he was never charged with anything there. He was only arrested and detained, but never charged. 2 years after that fact, he was charged with other types of crimes, but nothing dealing with that incident there. So it was definitely a false arrest.
Yeah, and the Whipple really brought out how Cliven's been fighting this battle for decades, and he's always done so peacefully and lawfully.
Exactly. One thing I got brought up in this opening statements was that informants again. And what we've always wondered, and we wondered in the first trial up in Portland, about all the informants are there. Whipple claims that he's going to bring in some of these informants and show you that some of these people in the wash were not friendlies. They were informants, and this was all set up from the very beginning.
The government does them such a disservice to themselves when they show all these pictures of these scary guns, and then the defense gets up and shows the picture and says, well, you know what, that was actually an FBI informant. And there were more than a few. There were lots of them out there mingling with the unarmed women and children and other protesters.
Exactly. So the last couple of days with all these hearings, that's why we got such a blast off here, because a lot of things were allowed now because of all the motions and stuff we have been fighting for, such as the snipers got brought up in front of the jurors today. And it was quite profound.
It was frightening to hear, as Whipple described to the jury, how the Bundy home was being surveilled, how Clive and Bundy, how they videotaped him talking on the telephone inside his home, how they were surrounded by snipers and they were in fear for their life. Something that they were not. I mean, I remember when in the last trial when Drexler talked about I was afraid for my life, and the judge right away read some jury instructions telling them disregard that. He wasn't supposed to say that.
So we've got a better start on this trial than we had in the last two, because the last two, the prosecutors and the judge actually suppressed a lot of stuff that we needed the jurors to hear. And so far today, we have heard more stuff in this first day of opening statements from the prosecutors and the defense team than we did almost the whole trial last time, because all of this stuff was kept out of it.
Yeah, it was interesting how they talked about that the BLM and FBI were constantly doing threat assessments because they were so concerned about their own safety.
Yes, that was very interesting.
So, yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff they brought out was stuff that was just recently discovered in the last couple of days.
We didn't know about the cameras. We didn't know about the surveillance stuff.
It reminded me so much of Ruby Ridge when they were talking about, just how they were so afraid of these Bundys, and they were just like scaring, the officers were scaring themselves to death. And it was really interesting how Whipple pointed out that when Metro came, that Metro was helping the Bundys, that Ryan actually rode with one of the Metro officers to the post, and that the Metro was actually pointing their guns at the federal agents and said, I can't imagine that there's any threat coming from the protesters.
Yes, exactly. Whipple made one statement. He said, being stressed is not a crime. It's their job. So some of this stuff comes in the line of duty. It definitely, we don't want any violence at all. That's why all these people came. They were sick and tired of the violence that was being done to these people that was there, such as Margaret Houston being thrown to the ground, and the government lied about it. It said she actually jumped in front of the truck. When that video was showed today, and she did not jump in front of that truck.
Yep, Myrie said she was going in front of the car, and they threw her to the ground to save her and protect her. And then Whipple gets up and shows the video, and that car is coming by, and she's clearly on the side of the vehicle when he takes and throws her down.
So it was a great day for a beginning of this trial. I know there's a lot of more stuff going to come out. Tomorrow we have Ryan Bundy's opening statements. We have Ryan Payne's and Ammon Bundy's. So we got a big day tomorrow. We might have our first witness that the government's going to bring in. We'll see about that, but it's awesome.
I think Ryan Bundy's going to do amazing tomorrow. I was so disappointed that he wasn't able to go today because I have to go home and won't be here tomorrow. But whoever wants to come and hear Ryan give his statement tomorrow, that's going to be incredible. So also they showed, the government only likes to show pictures of guns, but Whipple brought out the pictures of people praying, and and so that was good too. And we appreciate everyone praying. We felt it today, and it's just been so amazing to see Ryan Bundy walking around free, seeing him at lunchtime and different things, and
his wife was here today to see him. I know she can't come in the courtroom because she's a potential witness, but at least she was here and she gets to see him. It was a good day all day today.
And it's always great when the courtroom is full. We had a full courtroom. Right on the other side of the camera, you can't see. There's a whole crowd of family and supporters that have been here and supporting these guys.
Yes. So. Well, Gina came all the way from California. She's been here a couple different times.
Appreciate my husband. He took his last vacation day to stay with the kids so I could be here.
Is this your last day too?
Yeah.
Oh wow! So you don't get to be here tomorrow, but
I'll be home with everyone else glued to my phone.
Well, I'm glad you joined me today on here.
Thanks
for having me. I think Ken Rhodes, he came all the way from Michigan. He wants to say something real quick. I know his grandchildren watch him all the time on here. He's been involved from the very beginning also. But what do you have one to say here?
Well, I want to say, all of you listening, John will never ask you for any money, but John does need gas money and stuff to get around. He don't need a lot of money, but he needs some. But if you're going to give some money and come back later and say, what's he doing with the money? He's stealing it. Then don't send your money. He don't need it. So all you trolls can go away. But if y'all can, please send John a few dollars if he gets a flat or needs a tire or anything, because he's doing plenty. Here.
Brandon, you want to blow that shofar? Hey, Brandon, maybe now be a good time to explain the shofar too, because so many people ask what this shofar is all about. We've been hearing it since the Bundy Ranch. We heard it in Oregon during the trials there. But explain what this shofar is all about.
Well, the Bible talks about the trump of God. There's a whole bunch of scriptures on it. My favorite is Numbers, chapter 10, verses 8 and 9.
Yeah.
And it was something that was always supposed to happen generation after generation.
I didn't realize
it was supposed to be for the priest of Aaron throughout all their generations of time. And somewhere along the lines, we lost it. People quit doing it. Well, maybe the Middle East, they still do it. But anyhow, Numbers chapter 10, verses 8 and 9. And my favorite part in there is it says we'll be delivered from our enemies if we blow the trump. And that's my motivation.
And this shofar here, if you look at it here, it's 48 inches all total?
Yeah, this one's
it's pretty big. It's not a small shofar. It came from Israel, right? Came all the way from Israel.
Yeah, the Sephardic priest made it. I ordered it. It was like 7 years ago, and then they do whatever they do. It's kosher.
Yes.
And then, of course, they sent it to me. But it's throughout the scriptures, especially the Bible, there's a pile of scriptures on it. And I just mentioned one of the things that it's, the Bible says, I believe it, that's all there is to it. So it doesn't take a whole lot of faith. God said, if you blow this, you'll be delivered from your enemies. I believe him.
Well, give it a blow there for us. I'll tell you what, I've tried it myself. I can't do it nothing like that. No, I don't even want to try it right now. I'll embarrass myself. But it's not easy to do. I can tell you that much. So, well, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll be back here tomorrow at 8:30 for court again to resume these opening statements from the remaining 3 defendants, and hopefully get our first witness for the government side, and we will get to cross-examine that witness. So we're looking forward to this process. All the guys looked good today. They're all excited that Ryan is out during this trial process, and so it's been a great day down here. Thanks everybody for praying for us and coming down here and support us if you can. We may not have any court on Thursday. We don't know yet. It's a possibility there may be no court. Other than that, we'll be back on Monday. Thanks again, and we'll see you tomorrow.